all please take your seats? The forum is about to begin. We'd like to say a welcome to the League of Women Voters Corpus Christi area's live televised candidates forum being held this evening before an audience in the council chambers at City Hall. I am Sandra Heatherly, president of the local league, and it is a pleasure to welcome all of you here this evening. In our audience this evening are community members, campaign supporters of the candidates who will be featured, family members, and friends of the candidates, as well as local media. We thank all of you for joining us, and we ask that you please silence your cell phones while you are seated in the council chambers. The League's mission is important, and that is to promote voter awareness of candidates and issues and encourage individuals not only to register to vote, but to vote in all elections. To this end, the League of Women Voters in Corpus Christi has sponsored scores of candidates forums since our founding in the mid-1940s. And we'll be holding a forum this coming fall ahead of the November 4th general election. Thank you again for joining us tonight. Tonight's forum is being sponsored by the League of Women Voters Corpus Christi in partnership with Delta Sigma Theta sorority and Leadership Corpus Christi alumni. Assisting this evening to my left is Cheryl Moon, president of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, and to my right is Kimberly DeVisser, chair-elect of Leadership Corpus Christi alumni. Also joining us tonight at the moderator's table is Judy Telch. Here she comes. And she will be assisted by Melissa Signs, who will help gather and review all the questions being submitted by the audience to pose to the candidates. Our timekeeper is Stephanie Rhodes from Delta Sigma Theta. A candidate forum always requires lots of helpers, and we want to thank the volunteers who are here tonight, as well as the City of Corpus Christi, for allowing us to use this venue and providing for technical and videography services. You met some of the volunteers in the lobby and some inside the council chambers. Please help me thank them for being here tonight. If there are any candidates for office in the audience who are running unopposed or running for an office not featured this evening, I invite you to stand now and introduce yourself briefly to our gathering. We have several candidates standing, and we will start with Ann Lorenz. Mr. Garcia.
And my name's Alex Garcia, Jr., and I'm running. I've been a strong advocate of the community for many years. I hope to bring my experience. I'll also serve as a mentor to help them stop crime and help men bring.
Sure.
I'll make it short. Y'all don't have to. I'm Michelle Gabrielle Cooktown. I am running for
Mr. Reed.
I'm Wesley Reed. Out here better than Rainforest come May. We gotta have the
Mr. Fetland.
Hi, I'm Michael Fetland. I'm running for U.S. Actually ended up with an but I want to get involved to actually I want to bring tax immigration reform. Texas needs to follow Colorado. Want us to be taxed at you.
Thank you. Mr. Demas.
Hi, my name is Andrew.
Is there anybody else? I'd like to thank all of you for your desire to enter into public service and the stresses that go with that. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Tonight, we present candidates who will face opposition in the Democratic and Republican primary elections on Tuesday, March 4th. 7 races are being featured tonight. Nueces County Commissioner Place 4, not present. 13th Court of Appeals, Place 6, 2 candidates, but only 1 present. District Judge, 105th Judicial District, 2 candidates. District Judge, 148th Judicial District, 2 candidates. County Court of Law, number 5, Judge, 5 candidates. Justice of the Peace, Precinct 1, Place 3, 2 candidates. Chairperson, Nueces County Republican Party, 2 candidates. All candidates were invited to not only submit information to the local league printed voters guide, which will be available to public in a few days, but also to be present tonight. Have all candidates in the races just identified signed in to indicate they are present and plan to participate? If you haven't done so, please go to the lobby immediately and sign in, please.
Here's how tonight's forum will proceed. In the case of only one candidate present in a given contested race, will be permitted that candidate 5 minutes to speak with no questions allowed. In the case of 2 or more candidates present, each candidate participating will be allowed 2 minutes for an opening statement, 1 minute for a closing statement. Between those 2 statements will be questions furnished from the League, from Delta Sigma Theta, Leadership Corpus Christi alumni, and members of the audience. Candidates will only have 1 minute to respond to the questions. We cannot guarantee all questions submitted will be asked, but we will make every effort to ask as many questions as possible. Candidates in each race may be asked the same question or may be asked to respond to different questions. If members of the audience want to ask questions, they should write their questions on a white index card available from the volunteers roaming the room. If a member in the audience needs some extra index cards, please raise your hand so a card might be handed to you at this time. An important reminder to all who are submitting questions, the questions must deal with the issues and/or the elected persons itself and not personalities or questions of personal nature. Normally, there will be no rebuttals allowed. In unusual cases where a candidate makes reference to a position or record of an opponent, a brief 30-second rebuttal may be allowed at the discretion of the moderator.
Audience, at this time, I want to let you know that because of another candidate forum scheduled for tonight on Padre Island and involving only the 3 candidates seeking Nueces County Commissioner's Court, Place 4, those 3 candidates were unable to join us. They are Commissioner for Precinct 4 incumbent, Joe McComb, Republican, and 2 Republican challengers, Norm Baker and Brent Chesney. All 3, however, did respond to our voter's guide, and their answers to the 4 specific questions will be printed there for your review. They also have indicated that they will attend the League of Women Voters February 20th meeting to introduce themselves and answer questions. Let's begin the forum. Invited to take a seat on the dais at this time are Republican candidates seeking the position of Justice for the 13th Court of Appeals, Place 6. Only one candidate is present. The candidates are Doug Norman and Bradford M. Condit. Only one candidate is present, and that's Mr. Norman. The other having communicated to us earlier that he would be unable to attend. Mr. Norman will be given 5 minutes to introduce himself. And Mr. Norman, be sure that the green light is on your microphone. Also, please note that the timekeeper seated in front of you will hold up a time card to remind you of your 5-minute limit. You will hear a bell signaling that your time is up. When you hear the bell, you must stop speaking immediately. But you can begin now.
Oh, I'm sorry. There. Thank you for inviting me. I'd like to especially thank the League of Women Voters. It seems to me that as citizens, we really have 2 distinct duties when it comes to an election. One of them is to get out and vote, but the other duty we have is to vote intelligently. And it's organizations like the League of Women Voters that help us to exercise both of those duties, not only to get out and vote, but to get out and vote intelligently, to know something about the people that we're actually voting for. My name is Doug Norman. I'm running for Place 6 on the 13th Court of Appeals. I grew up here in Corpus Christi. I graduated from King High School, and I went to the University of Texas, where I graduated both undergraduate in 1984 and got my law degree in 1987. I came back to Corpus, and I started work for the 13th Court of Appeals, the same court that I'm running for. I worked as a briefing attorney, then as a research attorney, and as a senior staff attorney for some 13 years. I know the workings of that court. I'm very familiar with the process of appellate decision-making. I've written articles on appellate decision-making for nationally ranked magazines. I've written one on how to write an appellate opinion, and another on the dynamics of appellate decision-making, how the judge and the staff should interact. In 2000, I left employment with the court and went to work first for the county attorney for a short span of time, and then for the district attorney's office as an appellate prosecutor, trying to protect the hard-fought convictions that the prosecutor's office has. I've argued before the Court of Appeals numerous times. I've argued before the Court of Criminal Appeals, to protect our convictions on numerous occasions as well. I'm married to my wife, Roseanne. We have 4 kids, growing kids, ages, my oldest daughter is 15, my youngest son is 4, and I have 2 other sons in between, 8 and 11. And, you know, I want to thank my wife for allowing me to participate in extracurricular activities like this. I know it's somewhat of a burden for her to stay at home with the kids, but thanks, dear, I appreciate it. I would sincerely like your vote. I'm running in the Republican primary for, as I said, Place 6, the 13th Court of Appeals. I believe in a conservative judicial philosophy. I believe that judges need to remember that they are there not to make law, but to interpret law, and to interpret it without partiality to any party appearing before the court. I believe that we need to make it clear that we have no agenda going into the race, that we have no parties that we will favor over another, that any person appearing before the court will be treated equally, fairly, and with courtesy. And I think that can go for any judge running in this race. My name is Doug Norman. I would certainly appreciate your vote. I'm running in the Republican primary for Place 6, 13th Court of Appeals. Thank you, and I'll give back the time now.
Thank you, Mr. Norman. We'll take just a short break to give time to put up the name cards for the next group of candidates.
Our second group of candidates includes 2 Republicans seeking election to the district judge position, 105th Judicial District. They are incumbent Angelica Hernandez and Jack W. Pulcher. Would you come forward and take a seat, please? We will begin with you, Judge Hernandez, with a 2-minute introduction.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you for hosting this event. My name is Angelica Hernandez, and I am the current presiding judge of the 105th Judicial District Court. It's a unique court. It serves not only the constituents of Nueces County, but it is the only district court which also serves surrounding counties. The person who holds this particular bench is the only district judge for Clayburgh and Kennedy counties as well. My background is in both criminal and civil law. I've been practicing for over 10 years, and I have a very broad background of legal experience, both in the criminal and civil sector and in the state and federal system. I've tried personally over 36 jury trials from beginning to finish, and as your presiding judge, I've presided over 40 jury trials since being in office. That's an extensive amount of experience to possess, and it only comes with hard work. I am married to Texas State Trooper Rodney Hernandez. He is a Trooper 2. He is a canine officer stationed here out of Nueces County. We raised 3 kids together out in the Calallen area. Tristan is 16 years old, Morgan is 10, and I have a 6-year-old son named Jude. We believe in a strong foundation of faith and family first. I love what I do. It's been my honor to serve as your presiding judge of the 105th Judicial District Court. I've worked hard. I've decreased my caseload. I've been fiscally responsible, and I am requesting the opportunity to continue to serve you in this capacity if you'll have me.
Thank you, Judge Hernandez. Now, Mr. Pulcher, your opening statement, your 2-minute
Thank you.
introduction.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jack Pulcher, and I'm running as Republican for the 105th District Court. I've been Republican all my life. I graduated from Texas A&M College Station and South Texas College of Law. I'm married to my wife, Selena E. Barbo Pulcher, for 12 years now. We live here in Corpus. I have dedicated my entire legal career to being a public servant and working at the District Attorney's Office. I have been seeking justice for victims and citizens of this community for 15 years. I am a firm believer that the district judge's job is to be the referee of the courtroom, not the owner of the courtroom. I will be the referee in the 105th. The budget of the 105th has slowly but surely increased by $90,000 just in Clayburgh County alone. I will reduce this back to where it was back in 2009. I believe in due process, and that everybody deserves their day in the courtroom, and everybody deserves to have their dispute heard by the court. I will do the judge's job and allow the attorneys to do the attorney's job. I will not interfere with the process. Most importantly, I have the tolerance and the patience to operate the courtroom and to deal with the parties and their disputes. Thank you.
Before beginning questions of the candidates, I want to remind the audience that they may ask questions using the note cards. So please fill out the note cards and just hold up your hand, and somebody will bring those questions forward to the podium.
Okay, our first question. Judge Hernandez, you have described time and money as the most pressing issue facing the court today. Are these issues equal in magnitude, or is one more pressing than the other?
Honestly, that depends on which county you want to talk about. When you talk about Clayburgh County, you're talking about a county that was almost bankrupt when I came into office, a county where gas cards were being turned off, and so money became the pressing issue, which is why reducing the inmate housing costs and saving the taxpayers a little under $1 million in the 3 years I've been in office working with other elected officials was extremely important. But time is equally important because you don't want any person waiting in jail any longer than required. You don't want people waiting to have their day in court, to have their litigation heard. And so in Nueces County, it's more of a time issue. And so you have to be very cognizant of that as you preside in this court. So honestly, it depends on which county you want to talk about.
Thank you. Mr. Pulcher.
I believe that both of those are important. I would believe that the time is more important, especially when you're dealing with someone's freedom. 85% of the cases that district court deals with is criminal law. And if you're dealing with their freedom, their rights, that the time is more of a factor and it should be accordingly handled. That requires a good work staff to be able to set these cases and keep them moving. Money is, this system's going to cost money, and there's a certain budget allotted every year, and whenever this budget increases, then to me that tells me there's a problem. There's being too much money paid out when it's not necessary, and this needs to be trimmed. I still believe, though, that money is a secondary to the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Judge Hernandez, as a judge, how would you prevent the appearance of partiality or bias in dealing with cases before the court?
To me, the most important thing is to allow everyone to have an equal opportunity to speak. you're not going to find anyone who's going to tell you that I've cut them off or told them you have to come back another day, I don't have time to listen to what you have to say. If it means we stay until 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, then that's what we're going to do, to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to present their evidence, to present their witnesses. And of course, that requires a good staff that is willing to stay with you. And so it's nothing I could do on my own. But we stay until the job is done. We allow everyone that same amount of time and opportunity to present their evidence and present their facts. And I read everything beforehand. So I've already read the law. I've read the briefs. I've done the research. And we're going to get down to business when it comes time for hearing. And I read everyone's information. So to me, that's what it means to be impartial, is to treat everyone with respect, to allow them to present their case with an equal amount of time, and to have a judge that is versed in the law, that has done the research, and that is ready to hear what they have to say.
Thank you.
Allow him to talk.
Mr. Poulter, your thoughts?
Yes, ma'am. Could you repeat the question, please?
As a judge, how would you prevent the appearance of partiality or bias in dealing with cases before the court?
I am a fair and ethical person, attorney, believe it or not. And I know there's a lot of unethical attorneys out there. And I believe that it is utmost importance that the judge be fair and impartial. And if they are not, and they do have a bias or prejudice towards a case, that they should automatically recuse themselves, not have to have the district attorney's office or another attorney ask them to recuse themselves. I believe the system works by the judge being hands-off and listening to the dispute or the argument and not get involved with one side or another. And that's what I promise to you, that I will be fair and impartial. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Going back to the issue of money, do you believe in paying court-appointed attorneys a reasonable fee? And if so, what should that fee be? And that's to both of you.
At the same time?
No, one at a time.
Okay.
Judge Hernandez first.
In Nueces County, the Board of Judges has already adopted a rate plan for the attorneys that sets out what they will be paid. In Clayburgh County, because the Board of Judges decided that was fair in Nueces, I've adopted the exact same fee arrangement in Nueces County. And just to touch on that issue, I know my opponent in the past has said that, you know, he thinks I'm spending too much on attorney's fees, and I think that we all need to take heed of that. An attorney's time is their commodity. And if my budget has gone up, it's because we're trying 3 times as many cases as my predecessor. Jury trials take money, and the attorneys have to be compensated accordingly. We've got a lot of trial attorneys out here that practice in the district courts, and I think that you should be very, very aware that I'm going to pay you exactly the way the rate sets out. If you work 10 hours of in-court time, you're going to get paid 10 hours of in-court time. If you work 10 hours of out-of-court time, you're going to get paid accordingly. And I think that's what we have to do. It is not mine to take away the money you feel you've earned through the timesheets that you submit. I don't believe that a district judge should do that if the time can be accounted for.
I also believe that there is a pay schedule that's set out, and it should be followed, and usually it is followed by judges to pay a certain amount for pleas or time in the courtroom and outside the courtroom. But when it gets abused and when it gets an excess to certain attorneys is when there's a problem. What I plan on doing is using the wagon wheel, which circulates the attorneys that are in town practicing, trying to make a living, and you would not see the people that are the big earners, like Terry Shamsey and Renee Rodriguez, which are the big earners in her court. The money will be distributed appropriately and fairly. Thank you.
May I have a rebuttal? First of all, Renee Rodriguez is not on the court-appointed list, so he doesn't get any appointments out of any court, including mine, number 1. Number 2, there is no wagon wheel. There is Senate Bill 7, which is the law that governs appointments. And I don't do my own appointments. My court manager does every single appointment because we are accountable to keep a list and responsible to the state of Texas in order to comply with Senate Bill 7. There's no wagon wheel in Texas. There's Senate Bill 7. But I would like to correct that, and I think actually Mark Gonzalez has probably paid more than any other attorney because he's tried more cases in my court.
Okay, thank you. This audience is very congenial and animated. However, I would like to ask you to hold your applause until the end of each session with the candidates. Thank you.
Okay. Judge Hernandez, how will you address the backlog of cases in the 105th court?
There isn't a backlog. I mean, when I came into office, there was a significant backlog. The first case I tried in Clayburgh County was a 2000 civil case that had been waiting about 9 years to go to trial. After that, I've tried 2009 cases, 2010 cases. I have the lowest number of in-jail defendants right now in Nueces County. I'm trying cases from 2013 right now. My civil caseload has been addressed. And in Clayburgh County, we are not at capacity in the jail right now, so I don't really have a backlog. We did the first drop dockets that those counties had ever seen to get rid of stagnant cases. We've done suspense dockets, which had never been done before. And so in terms of numbers, I have the lowest numbers in Nueces County in both civil and criminal cases pending. And in Clayburgh County, I've reduced my caseload and been able to try an average of 22 cases a year, and my predecessor tried 5 a year. So there's not really a backlog.
I would think that Judge Banalis would be pretty upset that Ms. Hernandez is saying that he had a backlog in his courtroom. We all know he kept a tight ship and he kept cases moving. The caseload down in Clayburgh County by itself, the criminal cases, are 300 cases behind than what it was back in '09. And remind you that the budget paying attorneys who are appointed has increased by $90,000. So they're doing less work but paying out more money. And that's where I'm saying that we can decrease the budget there, get it back to where it was in 2009. The civil cases, I believe she's done 2 civil trials since she's been in court for 3 years. That's not going to keep the docket moving. The docket has to be kept up. Continuances have to be for an important reason, and you have to keep on these attorneys and these cases and keep them moving. Thank you.
Would you care to have a 30-second rebuttal?
Can Mr. Poulter tell me, I don't know if he can answer, which 2 civil cases is he talking about?
You were the judge on them. Name them for us.
It would be URI, which was a 9-week trial. It would have been a DTPA real estate action involving Ms. Hicks. And I'm trying to look at my list because I believe I've had more than that. We had the Exxon Garza case. That was going to be a 4-week trial. I think it settled after about 2.5 weeks of trial. So there's 3. Let me look. Suarez v. Christus Spawn, that was October 15th through November 2nd. There's number 4. Let's see, what else do we have? And that right there is going to account for about 2 months of trial time, actual jury trial time. So no, you're wrong with your 2, and you couldn't name them because you don't actually know the facts. And that's 4 right there, which, like I said, is about 8 to 10 weeks of jury trial. Civil trials are very difficult. They take about 1.5 years to get ready for. And anybody who's practiced in the civil litigation arena, which my opponent has not, would understand that.
Thank you, candidates. You may return to your seats in the audience at this time.
It'll take a few minutes to get the dais ready for the next group of candidates.
Let's meet the two Democratic Party candidates seeking election to District Judge position, 148th District Court, Augustine Augie Rivera and Jr. and Mark A. Gonzalez.
All right, you guys. I appreciate your participation in our forum, but please hold your response to the end of each candidate session.
Let's begin with you, Mr. Gonzalez, opening statement.
Yeah, 2 minutes, correct? All right. Well, first off, thank you, ladies, for having us here. You know, going over from the 1940s, you guys have been doing this. Thank you for having us. You know, my name is Mark Gonzalez. I'm a criminal defense attorney. I'm the one that Judge Hernandez said is the highest paid. I didn't know that in her till then, but it's true, I guess, because I try so many criminal cases in courts all over South Texas. I graduated from Agua Dulce, probably the smallest, one of the smallest towns right on the edge of town, in 1998. Then I came and moved to Corpus Christi in 2002. I graduated from Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Then I attended St. Mary's and graduated from there in 2005. And since then, I moved back. While doing that, I worked for legal aid, helping individuals who you know, couldn't afford any representation. And since then, I started my own law office, you know, and I took court appointments. That's what put food on the table. And at the beginning, I had to sell myself, and eventually people believed in me and my work ethic. And now I still take court appointments, helping individuals who you know, can't afford representation, but I also represent individuals who do hire me. I'm very well versed in that court. I've been there since day one, working in and out. You know, I've tried at least over 100 jury trials. I've been in trial the last 3 weeks in a row, and they've all been felonies. So, you know, I'm in there, I'm working, and I'm asking for your support based on my work experience. I know it's only been 7 years, but in those 7 years, I have become well accomplished, and by the fact that judges appoint me for some of these high-profile cases, they trust me to take care of these individuals. It's a compliment every time I get to do that, and a pleasure to serve as a court-appointed attorney, and it'd be a pleasure to continue serving on the bench as a judge. So those are my qualifications and my background of where I'm from. I'm married to Christina Gonzalez, who teaches 8th grade science in Robstown. I have a beautiful 12-year-old, will be 13 February 17th, Nia Gonzalez. So besides my law practice, you know, I'm a husband and a father, but ultimately, well, you'll get to hear some more about me. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Rivera, opening statements.
Thank you. I also want to thank you, the League of Women Voters, for having us this evening. My name is Augie Rivera, and I come from the small town of Driscoll, Texas, where 52 years ago I was born. I've come a few miles since then, and I practice law here in Corpus Christi. I graduated from Bishop High School, and then I was blessed with the opportunity to go to the East Coast. I went to Yale University and then Stanford Law School on the West Coast. After 7 years away, I decided to come back home to practice law and to commit myself to this community. I'm running for district judge because I guess my personal view of a judge who sits in that court is that you've got to be not only competent, not only professionally competent, but you also have to have a demonstrated commitment to your community, a commitment to your profession, and ultimately you have to be of good character. Now, competence, I've been practicing law for 25 plus years. I've been a very active trial and appellate lawyer, not just trial work, but also appeals. I've also handled a few criminal appeals, and I've gotten a couple of not guilties in the past. But I've handled all sorts of cases in the civil arena, from copyright to personal injury, from commercial litigation to oil and gas, some civil rights stuff. I've defended individuals. I've defended school districts, counties. I've even represented a couple of judges in my profession. To me, that's the ultimate for a lawyer, to be asked by a judge to represent them. So I've got a very, very broad experience and background in different areas of the law. In terms of my commitment to my community, maybe I'll get a chance to talk about this, but I've been about service from the day that I was born. And you'll get to hear about that in terms of service to my community, to my profession. I've been married for 22 plus years. My wife, Juliana Siracusa Rivera, is here. We have 4 great children. My dad's also in the audience, as well as my in-laws. And I look forward to talking to you about my qualifications and my vision of what it means to be a judge in our community. Thank you.
This question will be for both of you. Can you each discuss how important you believe the character of a candidate is in determining who to vote for as a judge? And what should we look at to determine your good character? Mr. Gonzalez, I'll start with you.
When I think of character, I think of work ethic, the work that you've actually done. I'd say that my character goes to all the work and that I've done in these courts that I'm seeking to sit on the bench for. You have to earn it. You just can't to be an elected official doesn't make you a leader or for someone to see the vision. You can have a vision, but if no one's following you, it doesn't matter. I'd say my character would lead other individuals and maybe show them, that based upon what I do and my work ethic, that maybe the individuals coming before that court would have an opportunity to change their ways or see things differently. My character would also show that I've always represented individuals in the most need of it. I can't say I've represented a judge, but I've represented officers, I've represented tons of single mothers, tons of individuals who couldn't afford it other ways. That's my character, not representing companies or anything like that, people who couldn't afford it, people who are asking for help. So that would be my answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera.
Character is a tough question because I believe in the old saying that actions speak louder than words. We can sit up here and tell you that we're of good character, but I truly believe that character is not only what you see in the public, but it's also how you conduct your personal life. And let me say this, just in terms of who I've represented, I've been serving the community. I was a Little League basketball coach for my sister when I was in high school, a CCD teacher in Driscoll growing up, on through college and law school. I was part of the community law project in East Palo Alto that helped there. But in terms of character, I've got two things. Character is something that others say about you and not what you say about yourself. In 2008, I was honored by the local bar when I was awarded the Judge Paul Nye Professionalism Award, which means that I'm the person that they felt most demonstrated the examples of ethics, high ethics, professionalism, and fair play. I was also appointed in 2011 by the Texas Supreme Court to the 9-member Texas Board of Law Examiners. I'm one of the 9 lawyers in the state of Texas that's responsible for putting the Texas bar exam together. Also, I am responsible for making sure that the character of that the character of everybody who applies to be a lawyer in Texas actually deserves to be so.
The next question, what would you do to improve communication between attorneys and the court? Mr. Gonzalez?
Well, first off, all the attorneys that practice in that court, I know them all. I work with them every day, whether you work the DA's office. As other people that sat up here before know that 85% of the court load is criminal cases. That means 85% of the time you're going to have to talk to a district attorney. You're going to have to talk to a criminal defense attorney. I could tell you that I'd be the best qualified to do that besides the two of us sitting up here, because I know those individuals every single day. And not to mention that I've tried cases, criminal cases, in front of every court in that courthouse. 8 district courts, the 4 county courts. I'm in trial. They know me. They know my work ethic. They've seen my trial experience. So that's how I would say I'd be best qualified to do so, is by actually knowing them. They can talk to me. We've worked together over the 7 years that I've been doing this. So the lines of communication would be open, freely. Talk to me. Let me know what the problem is. Let's get through this. Let's go to work. That's what we're here for.
Thank you. Mr. Rivera?
Yes, thank you. I've been around for 25 plus. I know a few lawyers too, but it takes more than that. It takes more than knowing the bar. I've got some practical solutions for how to do that. I really firmly believe that the best judges, in my experience, are those that are proactive versus passive. What does that mean? Well, that means that you schedule more status conferences with the attorneys up front, particularly in family law cases. I don't think it's 85%. I think it's closer to 70% that in terms of the cases being criminal. But in any event, there's also a very busy civil docket, which includes, like I say, the all-important family cases where custody issues are being decided on a daily basis. I would have a more structured and more upfront status conference schedule. I would also look into using a website for each court, which is something we don't have right now. It's the 21st century. It's time that we got websites for each of our courts. Thank you.
The next question is, there is a backlog for both criminal and civil cases in the 148th Court. What are your plans or strategies to eliminate the backlog? Mr. Gonzalez.
Well, first off, I'd say you got to show up to work. If that means just like all these other judges, you have to show up there early, got to work late. You got tons of cases, you got to keep working. If you're not there working, none of these cases are going to be set. You can set cases, and if the inmates aren't transported properly, well, guess what? You got a problem because you have your lawyers waiting around and your guys aren't there from jail. Same thing with family law or any other case. You have your cases set, and if the attorneys don't show up, well, then you can't do anything either. So the best thing would be is to get there early, work late, and not only that, make sure you have the line of communications open with everyone. These county courts, district courts, every court is a well-oiled machine, and you have to know how that machine works. And ultimately, you have to ensure that justice and fairness is preserved. But you got to ensure the rights of the victims, you got to ensure the rights of the defendants, and you got to ensure the rights that you're working within the confines of your budget. So the backlog is just work hard. That's all you got to do. You work hard, you're going to be all right.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Rivera?
Yes, thank you. It takes more than working hard. We all work hard. It takes some real practical solutions that are based on experience, 25 plus years of experience in handling a complicated civil docket. And again, as I mentioned, I think that one of the ways that we're going to undo the congestion that court is suffering from right now is by improving communications between the lawyers with regularly scheduled status conferences. We need to improve better docket access, and as I say, one practical solution, I think, is a website. There could also be more email communications between the court and lawyers, perhaps trying earlier mediation in most cases. Those are all very practical solutions in addition to working hard to undoing the congestion there. Like I say, justice delayed is justice denied. How many times do we hear that? Well, it's true when the cases aren't getting processed in the court, and that goes for both criminal and civil. But a more proactive approach as opposed to a passive approach, I think will go a long ways to getting that congestion undone, and I intend to do that. Thank you.
This next question is for Mr. Rivera. You said you represented school districts in the past.
Yes.
What districts were they, and what type of cases were they?
Cal Allen School District, Flower Bluff Independent School District, Corpus Christi Independent School District, and Driscoll Independent School District. I can't remember all of them. I'm also the general counsel for the Del Mar College Board of Regents. I've been doing that for 7 years. I've acted in a general counsel capacity where I've given them general legal advice. I've also represented school entities in court in cases that have been filed against the school district by either an employee or something arising out of a traffic accident. But that's generally my experience. In both state and federal court, by the way.
Thank you. This next question is for both.
And for the record, I've never represented a school district, so.
How much emphasis will you place on the mediation for cases filed in your court? Let's start with Mr. Gonzalez, please.
Well, most criminal cases, I know there are some jurisdictions that have a mediator that you can try to go through and they can tell you the outcome of the case. In Nueces County and most of the counties that I practice in, which is Duval, Clayburgh, anywhere from Bexar County all the way down to the valley, I've practiced in there. But it's custom where they don't have mediations regarding criminal cases. Now, family law, it's a good resource that you can use to actually get some sort of resolution without, I guess, crowding the civil docket. So you should use mediation as much as any other tool that you can to try to get these cases worked out, as well in civil cases. But most of the time, all those cases eventually go away. That's why a lot of these judges, they don't have tons of civil cases, or they don't hear that many civil cases in regards to criminal cases, because those are the ones that take up, at least from my opponent, 70% of the docket. So I think that mediators are a great tool, just as well as every other thing would be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera.
I have a lot of experience in mediation. When I began practicing more than 25 years ago, alternative dispute resolution was just coming onto the scene. And the State Bar has encouraged, just flat out encouraged the profession to embrace it. And so I've been through a lot of mediations. And mediation can be a very effective tool in resolving civil cases. I've also had the opportunity to go through some family law cases and mediate there. Mediation, of course, is the process where you get together with a third party impartial outside of the courtroom, and you get together and you try to resolve a case. And it's very effective, and it can cut down on cases that actually go to trial. I'll just say this, one of my dear friends and somebody I really looked up to, he was a fellow Yale grad, the late Judge Carl Lewis, also had a process, I think, while he was the county attorney, where he looked at mediating criminal cases. That's something that I would not be, totally averse to looking at. I know criminal cases present a little different dynamic than your civil cases. It's not always easy to work those things out. But look, anything we can do to get the lawyers and the parties talking before coming to court, the better chance you have of resolving it.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. At this point, there are no questions. Any further questions for either one of you? If you'd like to provide a 1-minute closing statement, Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you. First off, I'd like to say that my experience in my last 7 years has been overwhelming to where I feel that I would be the most qualified individual to sit on this bench, or at least as a Democratic nominee. 70%, which my opponent cannot say, whether he's been practicing 25 years or even 50 years, he's never going to gain that 70% experience. I've done so in the 7 years that I've been doing so. I've practiced and I've done trials all the way up to capital murders. Those are the things that I have accomplished in my short time, and I want to continue to accomplish great things. And I want to do so with the 148th. That's the place that I want to sit upon and touch the people's lives that actually come in front of that court. Not, I could tell you that no school board's going to come in front of there, no judges are, but single women, mothers, people with low education, people that have never been outside of this county sometimes. And I think that with my perspective and the work that I do day in and day out with these people that come in front of this court would better suit to sit on that bench. Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Gonzalez. Mr. Rivera, would you like to provide a closing statement?
Sure. All sorts of people and entities get sued and end up in court, not just criminal defendants. School districts do get sued. Judges do get sued, and they end up in district court. Look, ultimately, this court has an awesome responsibility. It's a court of general jurisdiction. It's a powerful court, and it requires somebody in there who's balanced, who's measured, and who's got the right temperament, and I'm that person. For 25 plus years, I've been serving my profession and my community here, and now I'm ready to step up. That's why I've stepped up and to run for this position. I've handled criminal cases, as I've said. I've handled criminal cases on appeal. I was appointed by the Fifth Circuit Federal Court of Appeals to handle a couple of appeals ones. One which involved looking at a record of 6 weeks in a huge criminal RICO case that came out of district court. So I'm familiar with every aspect of the law that comes before this court. What I ask you to look at is character. Character and a proven commitment to the community. I didn't wake up yesterday and decide that I wanted to be the district judge to serve my community. I've been doing it all my life, folks.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera.
Thank you.
Thank you both for joining us this evening.
We'll take another short break while we get ready for the next group of candidates. I do want to remind the audience that we will ask questions to the candidates that relate to the position for which they are running or to issues surrounding that position. We will not ask questions of a personal nature. Thank you.
This one's horrible.
Now we'd like to invite the candidates for judge for the County Court at Law number 5 to come to the dais. They include 2 Republicans, Adam Rodriguez and Timothy Jordan Allen, and 3 Democrats, Jackie Chapa, Martha Huerta Quintanilla, and Melissa Madrigal. You will notice that as a truly nonpartisan organization, the League of Women Voters, Leadership Corpus Christi, and Delta Sigma Theta have no problem combining the Republicans and the Democrats for this round of presentations. So we will start with the opening statements and begin with you, Mr. Rodriguez. That's you.
Me or Tim? Me? Okay. Good night, or evening. My name is Adam Rodriguez. I'm going to apologize at the beginning here. I woke up this morning, had a bad cold, so taking a bunch of medicine, and it hasn't quite kicked in just yet. So bear with me. My name is Adam Rodriguez. I'm running on the Republican side for County Court of Law number 5. A little bit about me. I'm 37 years old. I've been married for 12 years. I grew up in Houston. Went to college at Trinity University in San Antonio, law school at South Texas College of Law in Houston. And then about 11 years ago, me and my wife moved down to Corpus Christi. And 8 months ago, we had our first son, Jack. Since I moved down here, I almost immediately started practicing law over in Court 5. I think Melissa was the prosecutor at the time over there. And since then, I've handled every type of case that goes in front of Court 5, from guardianships to every kind of CPS case. And what I think distinguishes me is I've handled every kind of juvenile case. Right now I have a criminal defense practice and juvenile law practice and CPS practice. And like Mark was earlier, I consider myself a trial attorney. I try a lot of cases. I think last year I tried 13 or 14 jury trials. One of those was a juvenile trial over in San Patricio County. And I'm also, I think I'm the only attorney to have tried a jury trial in Court 5 in the past 6 or 7 years. And I've tried 2 of them. I've handled every type of juvenile matter there is, from certifications to transfer hearings. I've handled a murder case. I've even handled the capital murder case that was there a couple years ago. So I feel that I have the most experience, so I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Mr. McCoy.
Thank you for having me. My name is Timothy McCoy. I'm a Republican candidate for Court 5. I'm 35 years old. I grew up here in Corpus Christi. Went to King High School, graduated in 1996. I went on to the University of Texas in Austin, where I graduated in 2000, and then on to South Texas College of Law. I returned to Corpus Christi right after law school and began my legal practice, or my legal work, which also included County Court at Law number 5. I've been practicing in that court day in and day out for close to a decade now. I've handled every type of case that comes through that court: CPS cases, juvenile criminal cases, justice court appeals, and guardianships. This is one of the most important courts in this county because it deals with the well-being of the children and the families in this community. I believe my experience and my passion for this type of work makes me the best candidate. This portion of my practice has been the most rewarding in my career, and that's why I'm seeking this position. Is I want to continue working for this community and to continue helping the children and the families of Nueces County. And I'd appreciate your votes. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chapa.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jackie Chapa. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm 49 years old. I was born here in Corpus Christi, but I was raised in San Antonio. I did have family here, so throughout the holidays and the summers, I would continuously come back to Corpus Christi. I love this community, so when it was time for me to raise my family, I came back and decided to make Corpus my home. I am married. My husband's name is, I call it Eddie Chapa, but if you know him through himself and his work, you know him as Ed Chapa. He's also a local lawyer here in Corpus Christi. Together, we have 3 children. Our oldest is 23 years of age, and she is a recent graduate from UT with a master's in professional accounting and now lives in Houston. And our second is 19 years old, and she goes to UTSA. Our last child is 16 years old, and she goes to King. I have 3 girls, and I will forever be working. But I've been practicing for 23 years, and I started off as a prosecutor here with Mr. Carlos Valdez. I've handled criminal cases, I've handled misdemeanors, and I've handled family cases. I've also worked in the county attorney's office with Laura Garza Jimenez doing civil work. Since 2000, I have been on my own, and I have a broad range of practice. I am licensed in our state courts as well as our federal courts. I handle criminal cases where I represent individuals who are accused of crimes, and I handle civil cases, family cases, and within those family cases, they deal with CPS and guardianship issues and juvenile matters, and so I too handle those as well. I've also been asked to speak at a forum dealing with guardianship issues on the face-to-face forum on a yearly basis. I've also spoke on elder issues to our more mature citizens of Corpus Christi, and recently I've been asked to speak at the probate seminar dealing with our mental health issues. I love this court. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Madrigal.
All right, thank you. All right, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Judge Melissa Madrigal. I'm currently the judge of the Nueces County Magistrate Court, and I first want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this forum on, the Delta Sigma Theta for participating, and as well as the Leadership Corpus Christi as well. I graduated from Texas A&M Corpus Christi in 1995, and in 1998, I graduated from South Texas College of Law in Houston, Texas. My first job was for the Nueces County District Attorney's Office, the Juvenile Division. I actually began my career in County Court at Law Number 5. And the first judge that I worked under was under the late Honorable Judge Carl Lewis, who I learned a significant amount of information on how to be a judge from. In 2004, I did leave to become a City of Corpus Christi magistrate judge because they had just established a new detention center, and I went into private practice. I switched over from prosecuting juvenile cases to working as a defense attorney in juvenile cases, adult, and also on CPS cases. In addition, in 2008, I became the Nueces County Magistrate Court judge. I was appointed by the Board of Judges of Nueces County. Then in 2010, I became the City of Corpus Christi Juvenile Municipal Court Judge. And now currently, I'm the Nueces County Magistrate Court Judge. I have the only candidate with the experience to not only prosecute juveniles in County Court 5, defend juveniles in County Court 5, but also listen to juvenile cases as a City of Corpus Christi Municipal Court Judge. I was endorsed by the Corpus Christi Caller-Times, and I'm asking for your vote. Early voting begins on February 18th, and the date of the election is March 4th. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Quintanilla.
Thank you. I'm Judge Martha Huerta Quintanilla. I'd like to thank the League, Delta Sigma Theta, and Leadership Alumni for having us tonight. I'd like to tell you a little story. About 20 years ago, a boy stabbed his girlfriend about 15 times. I was a young lawyer at that time practicing juvenile law, and I was appointed to represent that boy not as his defense attorney, but rather as his guardian ad litem. And my job was to ensure that the juvenile's best interest was met throughout the whole criminal trial process. He had a mother, but she couldn't take care of herself, much less him. So my job was to make sure that his interests were represented throughout the court. What I found out as the case progressed, that what happened and what led up to that day was a series of terrible events in that juvenile's life that caused him to behave as he did that day. When it was over, I was convinced that if this juvenile's life had been different, we would not have been sitting in that courtroom and 2 teenagers' lives would have been saved. And from that day on, that case made such an impact on my life that I decided that I would make a difference in as many kids' lives as I could. What I learned to be true throughout those years was that a lot of these children that grow up in the CPS system, also through no fault of their own, also result in the juvenile criminal system. And then they grow up, they have kids, and the cycle continues. I'd like to tell you a little bit more about myself. I was elected to the 319th District Court, and for the last 12 years, I've served as a visiting judge, including County Court Number 5. And recently, 2.5 years ago, I was hired as the associate judge there at Nueces County Court Number 5. The job is beyond fulfilling. You'll hear a little bit more about why I'm the best person for the job, but I do have to tell you that I have tried and presided and ruled on hundreds of CPS and juvenile cases. My job there is to preserve families, and I want to continue to do that.
Thank you. Our first question is for all the candidates. Because this court deals specifically with children and youth, what qualities and personal strengths do you bring to the bench? And this time we'll go in the order that you're seated. So we'll start with Mr. McCoy and move to the audience right.
Thank you. I'm a father. I have 2 children, a 4 and an 8-year-old. Throughout my entire life, I've been involved with youth organizations, participating in them and volunteering in them, both faith-based organizations as well as the Boy Scouts of America. I think I have good leadership skills, and I think I can make an example to the children that come through that court, hear their cases, and I think I can do the best job in looking out for their best interests. Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Qualities, I would say probably patience, understanding, and respect. Whenever I take a juvenile case, I sit that individual down, that child, and I treat them like I would want to be treated. But I'm also patient with them, and I understand that they are children, they are juveniles, and sometimes, as was stated earlier, people end up in situations for reasons that aren't their own fault, maybe their background or whatever. So you have to be understanding, but you also have to treat them with respect. And like I said, when I have them sit down, I talk with them, I treat them like I would want to be treated, so that they can make the right decisions. And I think as a judge, you need to have those same qualities on the bench. Have patience, understanding, but most importantly, have respect for everybody that comes in front of you.
Thank you. Ms. Chapa?
Thank you. There's hundreds and there's thousands of CPS cases in this court as well as juvenile cases, and they're all labeled the same. However, really all the facts are different, and one of the things I've learned through my 23 years of experience is there's different facts and circumstances with regards to every family and every child that they go through. It's my belief and it's my dedication that I believe 100% that these children don't have to be a product of their environment, that they can change, that they can overcome their obstacles, that they can overcome their challenges, and it may be a little bit harder, it may take them a little longer, but they can certainly do it. This is something that I emphasize to my clients that are juveniles, to the parents that I represent in the CPS cases, and even it bleeds on into my adult clients in dealing with the criminal cases, that they don't have to be subject to this. They can change their lives to make a life better for themselves and their families. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Madrigal.
All right, on qualities and personal strengths, I think it's the, first and foremost, my experience in dealing with the children of County Court Law Number 5, not only as a prosecutor, but as a defense attorney. I've had to represent not only the children, their best interest, but also parents. In addition, it's going to be my ability to listen. As a judge, I've been on the bench since 2004, not on a part-time basis, but as every single day. And I have the ability to listen to both litigants and make the best decision based on my experience for each party. But most important is going to be my work ethic. It's important to get to work early, to be prepared, to review the file and be ready for the case, and be able to make a prompt decision, not let it sit for 3 or 4 months down the line. Justice, as somebody said earlier, justice delayed is justice denied. You have children that are waiting to be placed somewhere, looking for permanency, and that's not happening.
Thank you. Ms. Quintanilla.
I'd like to talk to you about what sets me apart from the rest of the candidates. Clearly, we're all qualified to be lawyers in that court, but what qualifies you to be a judge in that court? I have the judicial court experience in that court and have had it for many, many years. I've been a judge, and I was elected to a bench in 1998, and I've been a judge for over 14 years. I do have the experience to take over that court and to keep it running smoothly and efficiently without wasting the taxpayers' money. There'll be no training period. My first day of work as judge at County Court Number 5 will be work as usual. We shouldn't have to train a new judge or one that's only set bonds or heard Class C misdemeanors. I'm ready to go. I want to continue to do what I've done. I want to continue being patient, empathetic to the people that come before me, and to serve you and protect you, the community, in hearing each and every case on an individual basis, and protecting the needs of those children that come, and those are the most vulnerable in society, which are the abused and neglected. Thank you.
Thank you. This is an audience question for all the judges. What is your position on appointment of attorneys to represent parents in CPS cases? That's Child Protective Services cases. When should they be appointed to the case? So it's your position on appointing for the parents and when. And we'll start with Mr. McCoy.
First again. I've represented parents as well as children in these Child Protective Services cases. It's very important when the department comes in and files a petition against, or files a petition that deals with a family, and what that petition is saying is we're going to take your child, and a lot of times those children are removed and placed in foster care for a number of reasons. It's a really big, it's an important issue for the parents. The parents need to have representation, and they need to have representation at the point where it becomes apparent that they might lose their rights as a parent for that child. And both sides need to be heard. The parent better have a chance to tell their side of the story because it affects the lives of their children. And in my court, if I'm elected, everybody will have a chance to tell their side of the story. Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you. I would agree with Tim. I think parents should get attorneys as soon as it becomes apparent that their rights might be affected, their rights might be terminated. So as soon as CPS indicates that that's what they're moving forward for, I would bring it back to the way Judge Lewis used to do it. We'd have a docket control conference, and they would get their attorneys at that point, and then we would move forward, and hopefully the case would get resolved where that wouldn't happen, because a lot of times these cases do get resolved when an attorney gets on the case, that they can get the parents on the right track. Then unfortunately, if you point them too early in the case, it costs the county a lot of money. So at the point where it becomes apparent that they haven't been doing what they're supposed to do and the rights might be terminated, that's when they should get attorneys appointed.
Thank you. Ms. Chapa?
Thank you. Actually, our code states that any time that a parent is brought before that court in an adversary hearing and they are opposed to the appointment with regards to the child or to the termination, and they are an indigent, they get an attorney. And at that time, their right is invoked, and they should have a right to have an attorney. I agree that a lot of times when the attorneys are appointed, it helps move the case along because they can, in fact, instruct their client as to the things that they should do or not do. If they don't get the attorneys appointed and the case goes on and it goes to termination, then we run the risk of this going into our Court of Appeals, which is then going to cost our county a lot more money because we're going to have to defend the appeals and pay for an attorney to do that. Of course, we always want to keep the child's safety in mind, but as a judge, you're there to uphold the law and enforce the law. And if the law says that you have a right to have an attorney, then you have a right to have an attorney.
Thank you. Ms. Madrigal.
Thank you. I believe that at the onset of a case, the very first hearing that you have is the adversary hearing. And I think that the parents have a right to be represented at that point. I do believe, does it cost money? It sure does cost money. But we can't afford to cut corners on the backs of children and their families. So I believe that at the onset of a case, it's adversarial and they should have legal representation. I think there'll be money freed up. I know that if I am chosen as a Democratic candidate and take court number 5, I don't plan to have an associate judge. I think that's $20,000 that can go to something else. It's not needed in that court. The elected should hear all the cases of that court, and we do not need an associate judge for that position.
Thank you. Ms. Quintanilla.
Thank you. As Associate Judge of County Court Number 5, my job is to protect the interests of the children. And if it is in their best interest that, say for instance, at that time, the rights of the parents are being terminated, then certainly they do have the right to have counsel representing them. A lot of cases that come before County Court Number 5 are called family plan services. And what happens there is that they work with parents in an effort to try to keep this case from going to trial. Oftentimes, the appointment of attorney causes the case to be prolonged. And so as judge, I've seen that on the other side, where just the presence of attorneys sometimes complicates things. If the rights of the parents are not going to be terminated at that time, then I think that or rather, when the rights of the parents are threatened or going to be terminated, is when I believe that the parents should receive appointment. Thank you.
Thank you. We didn't receive any new questions from the audience, but the last group of judges was asked an interesting question that we'd like to have your response to, and that is how much emphasis you would place on mediation for cases filed in your court. Mr. McCoy.
Well, that's a good question, and it's done now. Most of the cases that come before, most of the cases that come before County Court 5 are civil in nature, aside from the juvenile criminal matters. Getting a third party to look at a case can be helpful in a number of ways. When you have two attorneys, battling each other, each for their client, as well as two clients opposing interests, a lot of times you get caught up in that adversarial process and you lose sight of what needs to be done, which is in this case figure out what the best interest of the child is. A lot of times, if you can get a case to mediation, a mediator can look at that and give you a different perspective, and that really does help resolve a lot of these cases in County Court 5. I would emphasize that I'd continue to use it as a tool in that court.
Mr. Rodriguez.
I would like to use it as well, but I'm not sure it's very effective over in that court, because on CPS cases, you have one side that wants to have someone's rights terminated, and you have the other side that is having their rights terminated. And I'm pretty sure that there's no parent that's going to agree to have their rights terminated, so that side's never going to agree. And for mediation to work, you have to have two parties agree. So I would like to use it, but unfortunately I'm not sure it's very effective because of how far apart the two sides usually are on those cases. If we can maybe somehow work it to where we can come to an understanding, to maybe both sides can come to the middle, but we've all tried a bunch of those cases, and unfortunately cases end up there for a reason. So a lot of times those cases just have to be tried, and mediation isn't going to fix anything.
Thank you. Ms. Chapa.
Thank you. I agree. With respect to CPS cases, those cases they're usually on polar opposites. One's terminating, and they're asking to terminate, and the other one doesn't want to terminate. I know I've been involved in termination cases in that court where they sent us to mediation in the middle of a termination trial, and it wouldn't settle because one parent is not going to automatically terminate. During the CPS cases, during the life of that case, when it comes to status hearings or placements with relatives, those cases will usually resolve on their own. Certainly, if parties come to me and they want to mediate on their own, I am certainly not going to stop them. But what I will not do is in the middle of trials whether it's a bench trial in a juvenile matter or a termination trial, stop the parties and force them to mediation because I don't want to rule. I will give them their day in court. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Madrigal?
I think on CPS cases, I wouldn't be that used to using mediation for the same reasons. In juvenile cases, I think that it can be a very useful tool, and I'm not just saying that because my mom, Raquel Madrigal, is in the audience, and she's been a mediator for 20 years. But it's because I do feel that in some cases, you can resolve juvenile cases through mediation. If there's a fight, rather than putting on a year's probation and wasting resources, if it's just a school fight, then try to send in mediation and work it out on their own, have the families work it out. So in some cases, it can be very useful. And I do not believe that you should stop a trial in Court 5, as Ms. Chapa stated, and send people to mediation. I've been forced into mediation on CPS cases, and it was a complete waste of time. You cannot be afraid to rule on cases. You cannot be afraid to stand by your decisions. I don't believe in gag orders, and I believe that in certain cases it is useful.
Thank you. Ms. Quintanilla?
Thank you. Just so you know, it wasn't me that forced him to do that. So I believe that mediation is an effective tool, and it's used currently in County Court 5 in different manners. We can't forget, my opponents are all talking about CPS cases, but we can't forget that there's also guardianship cases and there's appeals from JP cases that come before County Court number 5. They're very effective in these appeals because oftentimes it's somebody's dog was barking or somebody harmed something or there was some damages, and mediation is often very effective. And a step below that, there's also negotiation in which the parties are encouraged to talk. Just today, we had a 2.5-day trial go away because the parties, I gave the parties some time to negotiate, and the matters were settled favorably to everyone. So I do believe mediation is an effective tool. It also works in the juvenile matters where restitution is an issue, where perhaps a juvenile can't pay, and something is worked out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have another question from the audience. What is your position on the use of CASA, court-appointed special advocate, as guardian ad litem for the court at law number 5? And let's go the other way. We'll go the other way this time. Let you guys think about it for a while. Ms.
Okay,
Quintanilla.
thank you. Yes, I think it's an absolute must, court-appointed special advocates, and I'm glad you asked me that because I currently have in the audience, and I promised him I wouldn't make him talk, but I currently have in the audience here to support me, Jerry, who is a former CPS child who was in the system. Jerry, can you say hi? And I'm very proud of him. He just came back from getting an award. He's graduating from high school with dual credits and getting an associate as well. And he is a product of a CASA environment. And by that I mean he was able to have a CASA be with him throughout the very, very important time of his life when things were not going very well for him. And so CASA is very effective because they represent the interests of the child, as opposed to the attorney ad litem, which says, well, this is what my child wants. The CASA will tell me what is in the best interest of that child. And I think it's very, very effective, and we'll continue to use it.
Thank you. Ms. Madrigal?
The question was the appointment of CASA in CPS cases?
What is your position on the use of CASA?
I think that there should be a CASA worker appointed in every CPS case. There is a difference when an attorney is appointed. They're the attorney ad litem, and they're there to offer what their client wants. And sometimes what the client wants and what the actual best interest of the child is in conflict. So I think that if you appoint a CASA worker to represent the child's interest, best interest, that would be more effective in moving a case along. Sometimes, if I've been appointed to represent a child, although I may feel that their interest will be better served by something else, I have to do what my client wants, and that's by statute. So I think CASA, I think they do a great job. They assist, they come to the court, independent of CPS and independent of the defense attorney. So I think it'd be very beneficial.
Thank you. Ms. Chapa?
Thank you. I think CASA is very useful. Every time I'm involved with a CPS case, I tell CASA thank you because they go over and beyond what anybody else would do. They see this child very frequently. They will see the child in their home environment. They will see their child in their foster home environment. They will go and take this child shopping so they make sure that this child has new clothes on their back. Sometimes in a case, they have helped a child go and have visitation with their parent that was 2.5 hours away. So sometimes they enabled this child to do things that, because of the constraints and restraints with CPS, we would not be able to be accomplished. I think that they are a great source of help to this court, and I think that they provide wonderful eyes and ears and can give the court great depth and insight to what's going on with this child and how this child feels and the circumstances surrounding this child. So I think CASA is an absolute necessity. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez?
I would agree, too. They're a necessity. I think it was 2007, I was on the board of directors of CASA. I think that the year before, maybe the year after, I was nominated as Attorney ad litem of the Year by CASA, and I also have participated numerous times in the CASA training. So I'm very familiar with CASA and the work they do, and it is good work. They do help out where attorneys can't help out, because our jobs as attorney is to represent the wants of the child, not the needs of the child, and that's what CASA does. They ensure that the best interests are actually protected. So I think they're absolutely necessary.
Thank you. Mr. McCoy?
I'd have to agree. I mean, I don't think I've ever, knowing the role that the attorney has and the conflict the attorney has in a number of situations involving these cases, CASA is a necessity. I can't remember a CPS case that I've ever had where CASA wasn't a great asset and a great help. The volunteers over there go above and beyond the call of duty. They take so much time out of their lives to help these children, and every time I come in, I deal with them, I'm amazed at how good of a job they do. We need them. We need more CASA workers. They're an indispensable asset. Absolutely, CASA will always be a part of County Court 5.
Thank you. It's really inspirational to hear all of you speak about the essential and the helpfulness of CASA. So I hope some of our viewing audience, and the people here will be inspired to volunteer with CASA. Thank you very much. Okay, we have no more questions from the audience, so we'll allow each of you a 1-minute closing statement, and we'll start back with Mr. McCoy.
Thank you. I have real experience in County Court 5. I have real passion. This is the portion of my practice that I've enjoyed the most. It's a dual-edged sword. These cases can be bad, dealing with the children and dealing with the situations that these children find themselves in. And on the other hand, it's a very rewarding experience working in County Court 5 and working with the children and the families of this county. I have a lot of passion for it. I want to continue doing this work, and I'm asking for your vote because I think I can really make a difference, and I can continue making a difference with the children and the family of this county. Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you. Please vote for me. I think the one thing that separates me from Tim is my experience. I try cases. That's what I do. I'm a trial attorney. I've tried cases in every court here in Nueces County and federal court and all the surrounding counties. I've handled juvenile cases in Clayburgh, San Patricio, Aransas County, and in Nueces County. I've tried a lot of jury trials over there. I've handled the most serious cases you can over there, and I've handled the not-so-serious cases over there. So I've done everything you can do over there, and I think I have the proper experience to be the right judge over there. So please vote for me.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chapa.
Thank you. I'm also asking everybody for your support and your vote for County Court at Law number 5. I feel that I have the experience needed to sit on this bench here in County Court at Law number 5. You know, it all starts here in this court. I've had the unfortunate experience of representing juvenile clients, and then a couple of years later, I walk into our Nueces County Jail, and I see them sitting there. I've had the experience of representing parents that just wish, if that one day had not occurred, they wouldn't be here talking to me about their rights getting terminated. I believe that these people can change. I believe with the right tools and the right education, they can change their life. And I have the dedication to do this. I have the passion to do this. I like to roll up my sleeves and say, let's get at the root of the problem. Let's fix this so that you can change your lives and we can make an impact on the community. But at the same time, I have the ability to roll down my sleeves and make the hard decisions that need to be made. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Madrigal.
All right, thank you. I want to thank you all for being here. I'm asking for your vote for County Court of Law number 5. When everybody talks about their experiences, I had the experience of taking a case from the very inception, from the arrest all the way up until their court date. I'm the one that everybody was having trials against. So I do have the experience there. I do have experience on the bench. I do believe that it's important not to be afraid to make a decision. There is juvenile cases where you can work with them. The purpose of juvenile law is to rehabilitate a juvenile. But when a case comes before you, and it's a serious case, an adult crime, you cannot be afraid to hold the juveniles accountable. And I bring to your attention the Cristina Naranjo case, where 2 juveniles savagely murdered an elderly woman, and the judges there failed to certify them to stand trial as an adults. When the public is at risk, you have to act, and you cannot be afraid to make decisions, and then you cannot hide behind gag orders and hide what you've done. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Quintanilla.
Thank you, and thank you all very much, and thanks to all of y'all in the audience, and I want to have a shout out to my Del Mar College students that are out in the back. I also am an adjunct professor at Del Mar College where I teach criminal law and business law, so I thank them for being out here. And thanks to my husband and, of course, my wonderful children, Kennedy and Natalie Quintanilla, my husband, Bert. Again, I want to reiterate, I have presided and ruled on hundreds of CPS and juvenile cases. And I want to continue to do so. My job there has been to preserve the families and to make the kids who come before me productive members of society. So we don't have to ask ourselves one day, what could I have done to make a difference in this child's life? I know what I've done, and I want to continue to do more. I am Martha Huerta Quintanilla, and I need your help with making our future better, one child at a time. I humbly ask you for your support and for your vote of Judge County Court at Law number 5. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for
Thank you.
participating tonight in the forum. And we'll take another brief intermission and get ready for our next group.
Thank you for the message. I saw that. I'm sorry.
All right, audience. Our brief recess has come. Our brief recess has come to its end, and would you please return to your seats so we can have our next candidate's presentation.
Would the Democratic candidates seeking election as Justice of the Peace, Precinct 1, Place 3, please come forward? They are incumbent Robert Bobby Balderas and challenger Eric J. Cantu. Please come forward.
Is Mr. Cantu in the lobby? If so, please come and take your seat at the dais.
Well, it seems as though Mr. Cantu is not present. Therefore, Mr. Balderas, you will have a complete 5 minutes.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I appreciate that. Good afternoon. Good evening. I want to thank everybody for being here, the Women League of Voters for hosting this. It's really an honor being here, and also all my supporters and everybody that out here on this cold night. So thank you very much. I'm Judge Robert Bobby Balderas. I have been your judge for the past 3 terms. I have 4 children that I'm real proud of. I have 3 sons, Robert Jr., Melissa, Renee, and Randy. I'm so proud, and also I have 5 wonderful grandchildren that I am so in love with. Also, I have a fiancée. She's my supporter. She's here with me. She's always been with me. So thank you very much for being here, Ann. I had been in the bench for the past 3 terms. I want to continue serving you. I know the needs of this office. I have been involved in public service for 40 years, 28 years in the Nueces County Sheriff's Office, where I serve as a police officer, and the other 9 years as your judge. I know what the needs are in this precinct, which is our youth. They are our future, and I want to continue working with these kids. Because with these kids, I provided these programs for these parents and these kids so they can be a better productive kids in our society. I'm the only one that is qualified for this office. I have over 300 hours of judicial training with the Texas State University of San Marcos. I also been elected as a presiding judge, which consists of 9 JPs who elected me to represent them at one time. I served as a 2-year term as a presiding judge. I was also endorsed by the Nueces County Sheriff Association and the Corpus Christi Police Officer Association. That meant a lot to me because I'm there. I'm not an 8-hour judge. I'm a 24-hour judge. And this is not a part-time job. This is a full-time job. So I'm like a well-known commissioner and judge. His favorite words is 24/7. So I think I do the same thing as that commissioner and that judge. Because sitting in the bench, it's a big responsibility. I treat my constituents, whoever comes to my trial, my court, I treat them with respect. And my staff, I have a wonderful staff. They treat my constituents and anybody that comes to my court with respect. I am so honored serving you for the past 3 terms. I'm also I'm the chairman of the Bill Bond Committee. I was just recently elected, and I had been the chairperson before, which is a big responsibility. Also, I belong to several organizations. I belong to the Justice of the Peace and Constable Association. I also belong to the Justice of the Peace and Constables of South Texas. Also been involved with our youth since my kids were young. I've been a coach and I've been an umpire. I used to work so hard every day, 2 jobs sometimes, but I always had time for my kids. I see is what they see at the house, they follow. It's really important that you communicate with your kids. And that's why I emphasize in my court that with parents, with their communication, really they need your guidance. It's really important that you with them and stay with them until they become on their own. Also, when one thing I did promise that I was going to hear the cases in a timely manner. Because when people come over, they want to hear their cases in a timely manner. They don't want their cases sitting there. I haven't done that. I kept my promise to hear these cases in a timely manner. I heard over thousands of cases in my court. I had jury trials. So that's why I see I'm the only one that is qualified for this position. My opponent has a business. Is he going to give up that business to be a JP? This is a 24-hour job. So again, I ask you for your support and your vote. And early voting starts February the 18th, and the election day is March the 4th. So again, thank you everybody for being here, and please don't forget Robert Bobby Balderas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Balderas. You may have your seat.
It'll just take another minute to set up for the next candidates. We are running a little bit ahead of time, but doesn't seem to be bothering anybody. Everybody's here, so.
Our final race this evening is chairperson for Nueces County Republican Party. Has 2 candidates, incumbent Michael Bursma and
I'm not the
Mr.
incumbent.
I'm sorry.
I'm not the incumbent.
Oh, I apologize.
Okay.
And
Neither
Mr.
am I.
Richard Gomez. The first opening statement will come from Mr. Bursma. 2 minutes, please.
Yes, thank you so much again for, as everyone's been saying, for putting on this forum, and appreciate the opportunity to speak here. My name is Michael Bergsma. I'm running for Nueces County Republican Chairman. I have a degree in geophysics from Texas A&M College Station, an MBA from A&M Corpus Christi. And probably my biggest accomplishment in life is my 31-year marriage to my wife, Connie, who's sitting here. And I appreciate her and all. It's better than I deserve, as they say. And we have a daughter, Deborah, and she and her husband and our grandchild are missionaries in East Africa at this time. When Connie and I moved here 30 years ago, after getting settled in, I picked up the phone and called the Republican headquarters and said, "What can I do to help?" And I got involved that there were 2 elected Republican office holders in Nueces County at that time. And I got involved in the Ted Roberts campaign for state legislature and knocked 1,000 doors. He teased me that I was the Avon lady of his campaign, ringing doorbells. And we won. So we now had 3 elected Republicans in Nueces County. Well, moved down the road 30 years later. Today we have 18 Republicans that are in public office in Nueces County. It's been a long, hard march to do that. I've served as a precinct chair, served as election judge, gone to every state convention since 1990. I have been involved in scores of campaigns for different individuals, rung tens of thousands of doorbells, licked thousands and thousands and thousands of envelopes, made thousands of phone calls, and raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for our campaign and the party. I have been in the trenches for this period of our growth and success as bit by bit by bit. We have expanded our party and taken our conservative message of good government to the people in Nueces County, and bit by bit by bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mr. Gomez.
Thank you.
Please.
I'd like to repeat what the other candidates have said. Thank you so much for having us this evening, for the League of Women Voters, for Delta Sigma Theta, and of course the leadership, Corpus Christi. I'd also like to thank the audience. I understand there's many places you could be on a Monday night. I think it's demonstrative of your civic duty that you're here tonight, that you care. You care about your city, and you care about who your elected officials are. So again, thank you. I was born here in Corpus Christi. I was born in Spawn downtown, and I was homeschooled by my parents. My mother and my father taught us. They taught me and my 2 sisters, and they raised us a certain way. My parents are very particular about the way they wanted us to be raised, and that was one of the reasons why they decided to homeschool us. So they instilled their own values with us, and they instilled the conservative values that I have to this day. I'd like to think that I've been Republican since I was born as well, because it has been all I've heard growing up, both Christian values, conservative values, and values relating to freedom and to liberty. When I was a little bit older, when I was 17, I graduated. I went to college. I got my degree in theology. At that time, I thought I wanted to be a pastor or a missionary as well. And when I eventually got back into Corpus Christi, I became a real estate agent and opened my own brokerage, Gomez Properties, that has now been open for about 7 years. I believe in a small government. I believe in individual liberty. I believe in free market capitalism. All these beliefs and ideologies are the things that have shaped my desires for Corpus Christi and my desire for the Republican Party in Corpus Christi. I think these are the primary reasons when people ask me what the reason I'm running, these are the reasons why I'm running. It's because of my personal beliefs and ideologies. I felt like it was time for me to do something. That at some point, Edmund Burke says, all that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. And I felt like at this time it was time for me to step up and run for this position to help Corpus Christi and to help the Republican Party locally. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's begin our questions. This question will be for both of you. What is the opinion of the current Republican platform, and would you change it? We start with Mr. Gomez.
The core Republican platform, I believe, is excellent. I believe that is, again, what I mentioned a moment ago. I think that is small government, it's individual liberty, free market capitalism. I think that we have deviated in some ways nationally from that core platform. I think in many ways the Republican Party has lost its center, and I don't think that that has to happen locally as well. I think that there is only so much I'm able to do here, but the little that I can do is to shape our policies here. So to answer your question, I believe that the core Republican platform is excellent. I think it's time that we return to that and that we find solace in our beliefs and our ideologies again as they should be.
Thank you. Mr. Bergman.
I find the Republican Party of Texas party platform to be superb, and I believe that the Nueces County Republican Party reflects the issues and attitudes that are reflected in the the Republican Party of Texas platform. And it's probably part of the reason for our success is that we've been established ourselves as the conservative party. And people look at the issues that we present in our platform and decide, yes, those are more in line with my beliefs. So I'm a capital C conservative, totally in support of the platform. There might be a detail here or there. It changes from convention to convention slightly. But overall, I'm solidly in support of the platform.
Thank you. This question is from the audience also. As you know, for the Republican Party to survive in Texas, you are going to have more minorities joining the Republican Party. How do you plan on achieving this, Mr. Gomez?
I talked about this recently in a speech that I gave, that 59.6% of Corpus Christi right now is Hispanic, so that is definitely a significant majority. We can no longer call ourselves a minority, as one of my friends has pointed out. I think it's important that we reach out to those individuals, to the Hispanics in the community, and specifically, I believe because of the fact that their values reflect our own, that they also believe in hard work, that they also are many times pro-life and support of the conservative values that we support as well. I think that that particular outreach needs to be proactive. It's not enough just to say that you are welcome, but we must go out in the community and show them that we care about them, show them that we care about their votes, we care about their presence, but most of all, we care about them as individuals. And I think that would be part of our job as the Republican chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Mr. Bergsma.
I think that, of course, we must reach out to all members of the community of all races, ethnicities, and so on. And you'll look at the successful candidates we've had here in Nueces County, for instance, Judge Neal, and who has been reaching out into every community. You see him everywhere, or Todd Hunter. You see him attending every event, and I intend to do the same. I intend to be going to every possible event I can in the community. And a special plan, I want to go and visit with businessmen and businesswomen in the community of all ethnicities and just say, what can we do? What do you think? What do we need to be doing? And get their opinions and connections and show them that we are their party.
Thank you. Next question. What is your view of the 2010 Citizens United case and the larger issue of money in politics? Mr. Gomez.
The 2010, I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, I wanted to.
What is your view of the 2010 Citizens United case and the larger issue of money in politics?
I can address the second part, the larger issue of money in politics. The first part, unfortunately, I don't have knowledge of. As far as the money in politics, I believe there's two specific ways that you achieve power. I think one of those is monetary, and I think one of those has to do with people. I think though money does have a significant play in politics, of course, I think we're all very aware of that. I think by far the more powerful motive when it comes to politics and the reasons why we win and the reasons why we run is because of people and because of their individual strengths, ideologies, and again, beliefs, what we mentioned before. So specifically, I would say that money is important, but it falls a distant second ultimately to achieving what reaches out to the community, what reaches out to the people, and what causes the growth of your individual party.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Mr. Bergsma.
I actually agree with the Citizens United decision. It was decided to allow businesses and business organizations to be involved in politics, and I agree with that as a counterweight to labor union activity, which has massive involvement in political activity. Money is vital. We generally have less money to spend. We, being the Republicans, have less money to spend than the Democrats here in most of our races. And I tell our candidates, you don't have to have more, but you got to have enough. You got to have enough money to get your message out. There's a lot of people. There's 350,000 people in Nueces County, and it takes resources to get your message to them. So while I agree with that people matter, and they are, a campaign without people will fail. You also have to have money to win, and so we encourage our candidates to work very hard to raise the money they need to win their elections.
Thank you. Do you agree that South Texas is a third world country, as one of the statewide candidates has stated? Mr. Gomez, would you
Mine
like to
first?
address
All
that?
right, thank you. I believe you're referring to Governor Abbott as saying that in one of his statements he referred to South Texas as a third world country. Actually, I addressed that in a Facebook debate this afternoon. I think that was an isolated statement. I think it was taken out of context, and I certainly don't believe that South Texas relates to a third world country in any way. I believe what you may have been talking about is certain areas that we can improve as a state and as a county, and I agree that there are always ways that we can improve.
Thank you, Mr. Bergsma.
Well, of course, I don't think we're a third world country, and you know, when you go to a third world country, say, cross the border and come back, I always want to kiss the ground, because it's, you know, the United States is just a wonderful place. And it was unfortunate whoever said that. I think that the opportunity in South Texas is just vibrant. The dynamic going on right now economically is just with our ability to find new resources and new jobs and high-paying jobs that are developing here. It's very exciting, and I think that South Texas is going to be an economic driver for the state.
Thank you. As chairman, how will Republican Party, Tea Party, sorry. As chairman, how will Republican Party handle Tea Party elements to maintain civility in politics?
A question?
Who's first?
A little diversity. Why don't you go first?
Okay.
Okay.
Well, the Tea Party, understand, the Tea Party nationally is a very grassroots movement, and it has vast diversity. There's some Tea Party groups that, as you would suggest in that question, are uncivil. But for instance, our local Tea Party groups are mainly made up of middle-class people who are very concerned about the out-of-control spending at the national level. That's how they got started. And I have not seen any real display, especially on the part of the leadership of the Tea Parties, and being involved in any obnoxious behavior. And in fact, the Tea Party is a vital part of the Republican Party.
Thank you. Mr. Gomez.
I agree with Mr. Bergsma. I think the Tea Party is one of the most passionate factions in the Republican Party, and I think that's the reason why they sometimes get labeled as far right-wing. But we all need that passion. We need it in every single party. That's one of the reasons why I do believe that it actually tends to stabilize the Republican Party to have the Tea Party, to have a faction within it that is very focused on liberty, that is very focused on, again, those core beliefs that we tended to focus on. Because of the fact that they want to return to those roots is the reasons why many times they're vilified or they're ostracized from the party. But I don't believe that it's necessary so much as to deal with the Tea Party as it is to bring the Tea Party in, and it is to unify the entire party, including the Tea Party.
Thank you. This question will be for both candidates. What improvements would you anticipate making in the county chair's office if you were elected, Mr. Gomez?
For one thing, I understand that there's 126 precinct chairs, and I understand that most of those, 67 right now, are vacant. So I think it's important for us to fill those vacant chairs. They represent many neighborhoods all across Corpus Christi, and those are not currently represented by anybody at this point. I think one of my primary focuses would be to reach out to each one of those precincts and to find a precinct chair that can run in 2 years whenever it comes time to fill that position. I think another thing that we might do is to reach out to the demographics that may not be represented as well within the Republican Party, and those include minorities, they include the youth, and they include independents.
Thank you. Mr. Bergsma.
Well, first off, upon taking office, I would immediately get together with the candidates and start planning for the campaign to try to work as a team, to do the things as a team so that we don't have wasted resources. I agree with the need for more precinct chairs. I am very aware of how tough it is to recruit precinct chairs because the job is very difficult. And there's a lot of precincts that are very small and have very few Republican voters. So getting precinct chairs for them all is a challenge. But I welcome Rick's involvement in helping us recruit more precinct chairs.
Our last question is just for Mr. Gomez. What is your plan for communicating with precinct chairs if you are elected?
There is a list of precinct chairs, of course, and that was one of the ways that Mr. Bergsma communicated at the beginning to receive endorsements. So I think the first way is to maintain contact and to go where they're at if necessary. Some of those include their houses and their businesses. We've been doing that ourselves, both of us, in this last campaign for the last several weeks and several months, is going out to individuals, like he mentioned, business people, and actually reaching out to where they're at. Again, I think the role is to be proactive. I think it's not enough for us to sit back in our offices and to wait for people to contact us and to volunteer. We must seek volunteers. We must show them how important it is. create a sense of urgency within them that if they don't come forward and if they don't volunteer, then nobody else will stand in that breach. Nobody else will care as much as those individuals within their own neighborhoods, to the communities that they belong in.
We would like Mr. Bursma to also address that question after all. And the question was, what is your plans for communicating with precinct chairs if you are elected?
Well, first off, I frequently communicate with precinct chairs now on an almost weekly basis. I have a newsletter that I send out. Many folks in this room receive. It's very simple and straightforward, but it tells what the events are and things going on. I've been endorsed by almost all the precinct chairs in this campaign, as I've been endorsed by most of the elected office holders. And I spend a lot of time communicating with these folks and letting them know what's going on and trying to find out what they want to be involved in and how they want to be involved in the party.
Thank you. At this point, there are no further questions. If we would like to get to closing statements, Mr. Gomez, you have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. It was approximately 2 months ago whenever I had decided to run for this political office. At that time, I had a number of people ask me why I was doing it. I've got a business, of course, and I've got multiple realtors that work with me, and I stay very busy. I have a daughter, she's 6 years old, and I have a son, he's 10. There are many things that drag at my time and my attention, but I felt like at the time, whenever I was approached with this position, and it was the first time that I'd ever considered running for any office whatsoever, that I felt like it was my duty to do what I could in the Republican Party, and especially locally. As a Corpus Christi boy, as being from here and coming back, I feel like this is my city. It's the only city that I ever want to live in. It's the city that I most want to influence. And if I feel like political office is the best way to reach the most number of people, then I will. I think the ideologies and beliefs that Mr. Bergsma and I both hold are extremely important. And I think the value of communicating those is enough to cause me to want to run. Again, my name is Rick Gomez, and I would appreciate all of your support and your vote for Nueces County Republican Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Mr. Bursma.
Thank you. And again, I appreciate the patience. So many of y'all stayed through the whole thing, and I'm not sure I would have done that if I was sitting out there. So I appreciate that. I have a strong passion for conservative politics. I am a capital C conservative. I'm pro-life, pro-gun, individual liberty, individual responsibility. I had a teacher in high school who said, along with rights and privileges are duties and responsibilities. And I think that's a big part of being a Republican, is taking on responsibilities in life. I ask your vote because I think I'm the best qualified with the experience and background, and I think that if I'm elected, I will hope that Rick will continue to be involved and include him in things. And we have a chance and opportunity to make a big difference here in bringing good government to Nueces County. Thank you. You get to keep this one?
I believe all of the opposed candidates have had an opportunity to participate in tonight's forum, and I want to give a special thanks to my co-moderators on each side of me. Audience, please join me in thanking all the candidates, not only for their belief in the democratic process that we enjoy in our nation, but also their commitment to public service and the sacrifices they have made to participate in the campaign process. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Corpus Christi, the Delta Sigma Theta sorority, and Leadership Corpus Christi alumni, thank you for joining us tonight for this candidates forum. I want to remind our audience that our viewers at home that the League's voter guide is being printed this week. The 16-page guides will be delivered next week to several public locations, including City Hall in both in Corpus Christi, Robstown, and Port Aransas, all public libraries in the area, Del Mar College, and Texas A&M University, Corpus Christi. Also, the Nueces County Courthouse, and other business and community locations. In addition to the Voter's Guide to local elections, we will be distributing the Voter's Guide for state elections, and copies of that are available in the lobby. The guides are distributed free of charge. And note early voting sites and mobile voting locations that will be opened from February 18th through February 28th. Both the local and state's voters' guides will also be posted on the League of Women Voters website, which is www.lwv-cc.org. Thank you again for coming, and good night.